Hi guys, Chris here and you're watching Here We Are Running, and you're back for another week of ultra marathon training as I train towards my first 50 miler, the North Downs Way 50, hopefully taking place in May. And it's another week of really bad weather. So what I've normally done on these episodes is take you out on the weekend long run on some lovely trails, and we've generally been quite lucky to have one good day at the weekend where the weather's okay. Looking at the weather forecast ahead of this weekend, it doesn't seem that that's going to happen. So instead, I've come out on some different trails on Wednesday lunchtime, so it won't be a long run, but I reckon I'm going to be doing much of this week's running inside. Right, I'm running on a trail that I don't run on very often, probably only running it once or twice before. It's called the Millennium Trail, and it's not a hugely popular one, and wishful thinking I suppose, but I thought it might be better drainage here, less people going on it, less muddy. Oh no, oh no. It's got its fair share of mud, believe me. But just nice to get out for a lunchtime run on a Thursday afternoon when this week's weather has been horrible. And it's runs like this where you really wish you had a pair of Gore-Tex trail shoes, and the water, when you stepped in a puddle or a big large bit of mud, it wouldn't seep through like it does with these trail shoes, because the majority of this run my feet have just been really soaked. Well, Sunday morning, despite that awful weather forecast that we were getting for the weekend, Sunday is dry. It's cold, but it's dry, and the sun even came out. However, not out on the trails today, instead out on the pavements for the final long run of the week. And in this portion of the video we are talking about records. It's the topic of the week: world records, PBs, PRs, and distance records as well, all coming up. And of course we'll have a complete rundown of all of my training later in the episode as well. But also, just right now, I wanted to give a mention to a podcast that I took part in recently that went live earlier this week. So if you're not familiar with that, search up Jog on all major podcast platforms. I had a discussion with Harry from Jog On. It was really good, and probably you get some enjoyment out of listening to that, as well as the other episodes that he puts out on that podcast. And he has a YouTube channel as well, which I'll link to at the end. Right, let's talk about records and start with world records, because there's been a few world record attempts recently. Last weekend, Jim Walmsley, the ultra runner, sponsored by Hoka on Ione, he went out to try and beat the 100 kilometer world record on the roads, and he came so close. He was just 12 seconds over it in the end. I'm sure he's going to go out and do that again and get there eventually. But that was last weekend. Now this weekend, Flo, who I believe is German, he went out to try and set a 100-kilometer world record, but not on the roads this time. This time he was trying to do it on a treadmill and running it on Zwift. And because it was on Zwift, if you run on Zwift, you could join him and run parts of it with him, which is exactly what I did. So I left it quite towards the end because I thought he'd probably be slowing down towards the end, which he didn't. He actually sped up towards the end. He finished so strong, and he got the record, by the way. But I actually ran between 1 kilometre and 1.5 kilometres with him. He was averaging a pace of about 350 per kilometre, I believe. Fantastic run, fantastic effort. But that wasn't the only world record I wanted to talk about this week. I also wanted to talk about that run that I did back at the beginning of October, and that many of you also did, the virtual London Marathon, which is now in the Guinness World Records book as being the largest virtual marathon to take place. So anyone that took part in that is now a participant in a world record. And I think that makes all the wet and miserable conditions that we put up with on that day all worthwhile. Right, 10 miles in to this run and the uphill stretch. So I thought whilst I'm doing the uphill stretch, I'll tell you about how the training's been going this week. But rather than go through each run in turn, let's put up on screen all of the runs that I've done so far this week, and then I'll mention some key highlights from it. So as you can see, it's only been a 5 days worth of running, but on some of those days I doubled up or even trebled up. And because of the weather, a lot of the running was done on Zwift, and as a result the elevation gain this week hasn't been as high as previous weeks in January. But what I've lacked a little bit in elevation, I've made up for in distance. Inspired by Flo and motivated at the speed he was running on Saturday to get that 100k treadmill world record, I decided that I'd take part in a Zwift race on Saturday afternoon and treat that as my one bit of speed that I did this week. And I'm delighted to report that I got a new 5k, my fastest time running 5k, albeit on the treadmill. Hang on. It was a time of 19 minutes and 12 seconds, which knocks quite a chunk of what I've managed to do before, even on the treadmill. What I really want to do now is get outside, somewhere flat, good conditions, and see what I'm capable of at that distance on the roads, the pavement. But at the moment, during lockdown, that's proving a little bit challenging. But we will see, as soon as we're able to, we will see, and we'll get out there and give 5k, possibly a sub 19 minute 5k a go. So not only did I run a fast 5k, I then followed that up later in the day with a 15k easy pace run to get the total for Saturday over 20 kilometers, and meaning that when I started today's run, I was definitely running on tired legs. And that's all part of the training, to get myself running on tired legs and to let the legs cope better in that situation. Now, to the mathematicians amongst you, or the eagle-eyed Strava watchers, you might have worked out what that brings my distance to for the week. You might have even worked out what it brings the distance to for the month. In fact, probably none of you have done that, but I'm going to tell you, I am about 34k shy of 400k for the month of January. And if I did 34k, I would go over 100k for this week. But I'm not going to run 34k on this run. Sorry to disappoint, but that is too much. Instead though, I am going to try to attempt to get to that 400k mark for the month. And to find out how, and who with, join me in a few seconds on the treadmill. Right, back in the run hub, on the treadmill for the last run of the day, the last run of the week, and the last run of the month. But why am I fitting in an extra run? It's because after that last long run, I had 7.2k to run to get to 400k for the month, which I have never done before. It will also take me over 100k or 60 miles for the week. But who am I running with? Well, you can see this big group of runners in Zwift, all dressed in blue, and we are all running with Ezzy Izzard as she takes part in her 32nd marathon, running 31 days in a row. It's a double day today. Ezzy Izzard is a very well-known British comedian for anyone out there that hasn't heard about her before. And she's been doing this throughout the month, all in aid of charity and the cause which has been called Make Humanity Great Again. So as you can see, as I've been talking to you now, we've ticked over 7.2k. I've done this run with this great group of runners. A lot of them have been running half marathons across the course of the month. I'm going to end in a moment once I finish talking to you, but I just wanted to do this last 7.2k with Eddie Izzard to top off what has been a fantastic week of running for me and a record-breaking week all round. Guys, I do hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, if you have, please do hit that thumbs up button to give the video a like. They're all doing it on there. And if you're new to the channel, well, why not consider subscribing for regular running content? For now, guys, goodbye.